Hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I see you, KD. Good to see you. Hey, Ashanta, thank you for tagging. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Hey, Elder Deidre, thank you for tagging. I have some jewels to drop on you today. Hey, Nisi, good to see you. Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you for tagging. I'm telling you, I'm about to release some jewels that people would charge you for. You missed me yesterday. Yeah. I know you were doing the work of the Lord. Hello, hello. Hey, I see you, Elisha, on YouTube. Hey, Pastor Nikki. Hey, Prophetess Brandy. Come on in, come on in. You're watching from YouTube. Okay, Michaela. I hope you're resting. I hate I couldn't be at your y'all's baby shower yesterday. It was my mother-in-law's birthday, so we had a surprise party for her and Apostle Cliff's grandmother. They share the same birthday. Hey, Keisha. Hey, Jasmine. Hello, hello. Tag and share, tag and share, tag and share. I'm about to give you some leadership wisdom. This flow topic is entitled Leadership Wisdom That I Wish I Knew 7 years ago. And so many of you know, all our tribe members know, in September, we will be celebrating 7 years. It'll be me and my husband's pastoral anniversary as well as our church anniversary. And so I want to just flow today talking about leadership. I may take some questions as well, because I know it's something that we always have to, yeah, come back and watch the replay. I know it's something that we always have a lot of questions about. My husband and I mentor other leaders and senior pastors, and people who are entrepreneurs. And so we're always having to give wisdom about leadership and the things that, the challenges that you face being a leader, not only a leader, but also being a builder. And I'm going to share a few things too that that we shared with our leaders at our leadership meeting on last week. Hey, Jessica, good to see you. And so I want to make sure that everyone who can be on this broadcast is on this broadcast right now. So if you know any leaders, if you know any builders, if you know any people who are new to leadership, especially, tag them in this broadcast. If they cannot jump on now, they can watch the replay later. Um, because, like I said, I'm going to be giving out some wisdom that a lot of people will charge you for stuff way more basic than what I'm about to do today. But I believe in sharing wisdom as well because it just benefits the body of Christ as a whole. So a little bit about me. A lot of y'all on here are part of our tribe, so you know who I am. But just a little bit about me. My husband and I pastor and planted Liberate Church almost 7 years ago from three members, which was, well, four: me, my husband, my mom, and Pastor Betty, who's now one of our associate pastors. Hey, Mom. And so we planted with just a handful of us, and now we are coming up on 275 members. And it has been a journey, to say the least. Hey, thank you for jumping on, Risa. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents started their business when my mom was pregnant with me. I have two brothers, and all three of us are entrepreneurs as well. And so, entrepreneurship, hey, Brian, has not been something foreign to me, but leading in the capacity of being a church planter has been another type of leadership. Hey, Prophet Omar, good to see you on here. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been another type of leadership. It is very different to build something solo or to build a leadership team from a business versus building a leadership team from the ministry perspective. Hey, Pastor Chelsea. Okay, you're on YouTube. Okay, YouTube shows up in my chat on StreamYard, so I can see both of y'all. Even when you comment on YouTube, I can see you over there on YouTube. But so it is very challenging. I mentioned this to our leaders. I commonly get people who build something successfully individually, and they think because they've done that well individually that building a team. Hey Shay, I hope you're resting and you and the baby are well. Um, Hey, good to see you. Thank you for jumping on. It is very different, okay? And everybody else who jumps on from now until the end, thank you for joining me. I don't want to stop everything to say hello because I like to say hello as much as possible. But no, you didn't miss it, Ebony. So I'm about to get into it right now. Okay, building something individually and building something with the team are two totally different things, okay? You can do very well building something individually. You can build something to $1 million status, to six-figure status, and you are maybe just it's just you and an assistant, or it's you and a couple of other people who help you run things. But that is very different from building and leading. Okay, it is very different from leading and building a team from nothing. And we're going to talk about some of that journey because like I said, my husband and I built our ministry from nothing, okay, from funding it from our church with a handful of people to now coming up and quickly approaching 300 members. And we went through a lot of changes in our leadership style. We went through a lot of changes in our church structure, and it is to me, ministry is the contains some of the strongest leaders because you are leading volunteers. And my husband and I have always said that. And then recently we had our leaders reading a book by John Maxwell called 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And if you haven't read it, I recommend you go buy that book and you read it. As we all know, John Maxwell's one of the top instructors and educators in leadership. But not only that, he is a believer and he was a former pastor, and so he has experience in leadership from many different perspectives. But then he said the same thing that my husband and I have always said, and he says if you want to see how strong someone is in leadership, have them lead volunteers. And this is why I think that pastors end up making some of the top becoming some of the top voices in leadership development because we are leading volunteers. And when you're able to build something that is successful and sustainable for years and years and years, and you're mostly leading volunteers, it is a true testament of your leadership ability. It's one thing to tell somebody to do something or have a team of people doing things when they're getting a check every week, every other week. But it's another thing when you're leading people that are not getting paid. And so it's very important for you to read this book and for you to continue to grow in leadership. For people who, aren't leading anything, this broadcast may not be as interesting to you because you may not understand the necessity of the things that I'm going to be pouring out today, because you don't have people that you lead and you don't have people that you are developing. But for those of you who are leading people, who have to create a team, who are building a business with a team, who are are trying to build a team for your ministry or anything like that, you need to make sure that if you have to jump off, that you come watch the replay, because like I said, a lot of people charge a lot of money that for information that I'm about to give today that is probably not even on the level of information I'm about to give. Okay. And that's just 100% because I want to talk to you about some of the things that we had to learn along the way, that we didn't necessarily have someone to teach us and to pour into us. Now that we are almost 7 years in it, we have great resources and people. But in the beginning, honey, we didn't have nobody but the Holy Ghost. We had an apostle, but she wasn't very experienced in building a ministry bigger than, 30 members, and we were growing much quicker than her church was, and so she couldn't really pour into us the information that we needed to build. So First and foremost, you need to understand and you need to humble yourself. If you build something well individually, that is great, but you need to understand that when you start building a team, that is a whole different ball game. Okay, when you have to start to build a team to assist you with what you're doing, you also are going to have to build the people. Okay. A lot of times, a major part of our frustration as we're building something is we assume that the people who are helping us or who end up joining to help us build automatically know certain things. We think that we take for granted that the vision that's in our head isn't in their head. The way we see and understand isn't the way they see and understand. The picture that God has given us of what we desire to establish is not in their head. And one of the biggest mistakes we make in the beginning is this assumption that people are going to see how we see and think how we think and be as passionate as we are and be as committed as we are. And this is a major cause for disappointment in leaders early on. I mean, we get disappointed. It's we're be 6 months, a year into this thing, and we already fussing about how we don't have reliable help and people aren't committed or they're not doing it the way we want to do it. And that comes from this assumption that because I see it this way, everyone else sees it this way. And because I feel this way, everyone else feels this way. I need you to throw that out the window. Throw it out the window, because I'm trying to save you some frustration. I'm trying to save you some time and some energy being exerted on the fact that they're not doing what I need them to do, and they're not showing up, and I wish that they saw things like. Just let it go. Let it go. I was talking to a client the other day and I was explaining to her that when you first start building something, it's just you. And for some of you, you may be very successful as an individual and you're just now starting to build a team. Some of you, you're at the bottom level and you need a team to even take it to the next level. But either way, when it's just you, you only have to manage you. You only have to manage you. And then you start to build a handful of people that are assisting you with what you're doing. When you get that first handful of people, they are just hands and feet. Okay. When you get your first group of volunteers, typically they are just hands and feet. What does that mean? They are just helping to execute tasks. They're just helping to execute tasks. You don't have to put as much energy into that because, in some ways, there is a lot of gopher delegation going on, which means you tell them, do X, Y, and Z. They do it. They come back to you for the next level of instruction. You say, do 3, 4, 5, 6. They do it. They come back to you. That's gopher delegation. They have to come back to you every time for a new set of instruction for a new task. Typically, the people that are helping with you in the beginning are just people that are helping to execute the task. So don't put too much pressure on them to have your mind and to have your heart early on. Unless you're building, unless you are have a ministry and you have an actual launch team, then you aren't giving these people your mind yet. They're just helping you to take some tasks off of your plate. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you need to have realistic expectation. You need to stop putting the pressure on people to have your mind who are just hands and feet. I hope y'all are catching this. I hope you're taking notes. You need to stop putting the pressure on people who are just supposed to be hands and feet. Stop putting the pressure on them to have your mind, because that's one of the quickest ways you're going to run off your help, because your expectation is too great for them. They're still trying to understand the basic things that you need. And you want them to think like you and to have the motivation you have and to have the desire that you have for ministry. And they're not going to do that. They're just helping to execute tasks. So, and another thing, when you see them as your first group of volunteers, as people that need to have your mind, then you may feel that you don't have enough candidates to help you. And then you end up continuing carrying weights that you could have delegated to someone else, but you're not delegating them to someone else because you want people to have your mind, as when you really just need hands and feet. Some of y'all won't catch this. Like I said, if you're not in any form of leadership, this may not be useful for you. But if you are on here, catch what I am saying. We will sit here and say, I don't have enough people to help me. I don't have enough people to build with me. If you're just starting, you don't need all of that. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of us won't start unless we have this robust team is because you lack confidence. You lack confidence in your ability to lead, and you lack confidence in your ability to build. And so you think you need 10 people to do what God is calling you to do, when you may just need a strong second person and then a couple of other people. So many of you are not moving forward because you want to build this robust team. And let me tell you something, you're not going to draw those type of people if you don't have any fruit yet. Unless they're like a family member or a close friend, you're not going to have that kind of kind of dedication when you're newly starting a thing. Okay? Let's just be real. A lot of people are not going to be willing to sacrifice that much unless you have fruit or unless they know you personally. And we want complete strangers to have this unrealistic level of commitment, and to catch the vision and to know our minds, and they don't even know us well, and we don't yet have any proof that we know how to lead and we know how to build. You don't start building, you don't start drawing those thinkers and those builders until you have fruit to show for what you're doing. Then people say, I want to be a part of this. I read this resonates with me. I want to help build this out. I see the future. I see the promise. I see the potential. But those type of people, unless you know them personally, are typically not going to be with you in the beginning. The people that you see that have those kind of people around them in the beginning is because they are connected to some kind of name that has validated them as a leader. Then you can get those type of people. Church planners who are planted by a mega church, they're going to have those type of leaders because they were part of this mega church, and typically some of the people that go with them were also part of the leadership team of that church, and so they know them already, and they have credibility from the church, the person that's planting them. But when you're building something from scratch and nobody knows who you are, whether it's a business, whether it's a ministry, you need to have realistic expectations about the type of help that you're going to get. This is why you need to start with just people who are hands and feet, and just people who are going to help execute tasks, because you may be putting more pressure on them than they are able to match up to and stand under. They may not have the ability to be a head for you. They may just be hands and feet, and then later you will draw heads. Okay. But right now, you just need some people that can help execute some tasks. If you still in the house, I want you to type in the comments, I hear you, because I need to know that y'all are listening. I'm not going to waste an hour of my day pouring this level of information if y'all ain't going to pay attention. Type, I hear you. Okay. Because if you don't have it here now, you're going to need it later. Okay. So the next thing that I had to learn, you're driving. Okay. The next thing that I had to learn is that I can, we can start off with a team. Okay. We can start off with a team that that are just hands and feet. But the next level is you're going to actually have to develop some of these people into heads and into leaders. There is a difference between leading people and building leaders. Okay. Sometimes we're great at leading people, or I take that back, managing people. Okay. Sometimes we're good at managing people. What is managing people? When you are a manager, you don't have to um you don't have to cast vision. You're just making sure that people are executing their task and their responsibilities well. Okay. You don't have to cast vision. You're not building out of vision. You're not doing anything new. You're just making sure people are getting their jobs done. And so a lot of us start off as managers and we think we're leaders, but we're not leaders. We're just managers. We just give somebody something to do and we make sure that they get it done. We're not really casting vision, and we're not really building anything new and showing them the future and taking them into the future. We're just making sure they execute their task. But as you grow as a visionary, you're going to move from management to leadership, and now you're going to need heads on your team, and you're also going to have to develop the people that are volunteers on your team. Another frustration I constantly hear from leaders is that their team doesn't execute the tasks that they've given them well. And then I ask them, how often do you pour into those people? And most of the time, they don't. They don't pour into them. You can't expect people to know your heart and your mind and to understand the vision if you're not pouring into them. If you call yourself a leader and you say that you develop people, you should be pouring into those people. What does that mean? There should be time that is set apart for you to do things like I'm doing right now, for you to share with them what God has said about what you're building, for you to give them wisdom on leadership, for you to give them wisdom on whatever it is that you do, for you to answer questions that they have and give them insight to challenges that they're facing, and grow them spiritually, and grow them in their confidence, and grow them in their self-esteem. This should be a regular part of your relationship, because before you can expect them to be the type of assistance that you need, you have to pour into them the vision of God, and who God has called you to, and what's in them, and the potential that they carry. You should be addressing the fears that they have and addressing the insecurities that they have, because oftentimes we found, as we've been building, when we see people be very timid in the things that we've given them to do, is typically because they lack confidence. And so, if we find that they're not taking initiative and they're not taking ownership over what it is that we've given them to lead or what we've given them to do, it's because they lack confidence. Maybe they lack confidence because they don't fully understand what you want them to do. Maybe they lack confidence because they don't fully feel that they can do it well. Maybe they're afraid of failing or disappointing you. Whatever the case may be, instead of you getting frustrated because they're not executing the way you want them to execute, you need to find out what it is that's causing them to hold back. And the only way that you can do that is by spending time with them and pouring into them and investing in them and developing them and getting to know them as a person. Okay. You have to get to know the people that serve with you. One thing I cannot stand are people who give out all these assignments, and they give out all these tasks, and they want everybody to do stuff, and you don't even know the people that are serving with you. You don't even know the people that are volunteering and saying they want to invest in what you're doing. You don't even know them. You only take the time to know who they are, what they're dealing with in life. And so you can't expect them to be as committed or as confident in what they're doing if you don't even know them. They don't know you. They don't know your heart. They may not trust you because they don't know you well. Maybe they just agreed to serve because they believe in the vision, but they don't necessarily know you as a leader. And so you need to spend time pouring into your team. I don't care if your team is only 2 or 3 people. If your team is 2 or 3 people, you need to be pouring into those 2 or 3 people. If your team is 2 or 3 people, there's no excuse for you not knowing them. And don't take for granted the relationships you have, because just because maybe the person on your team is your cousin, it's your sibling, it's a friend, don't assume that you know what their needs are, and that you're leading them well. Because a lot of times people aren't even going to say anything if they're close to you. If they're friends with you, they're not going to say, "You know what? I don't understand what we're doing." They're just going to try to be loyal because they love you. But you need to make sure that you're really spending time pouring into them. And if it's somebody on your team that will not submit to your pour and will not allow you to pour into them and don't respect your leadership in that way, they shouldn't be on your team. Not that close. They could probably help execute some tasks for an event, but you cannot have those people as your mind if they won't even receive what you're pouring, because they're going to have their own agenda and their own plans. Daphne asks, how do you prevent burnout in your team? First and foremost, you need to have, like I said, realistic expectations about what your team can handle, what their strengths and weaknesses are, what their capacity is. Because sometimes we put a lot of weight on individuals who don't have the capacity for it simply because we need the help. One of my things is, and my husband and I are big, huge advocates of this, that you shouldn't start something and build something if you don't have the capacity to run the majority of it for a while by yourself. Because one of the things that I've seen is people will come out the gate very dependent upon people to help them. They're low capacity people and they want to be the visionary and the leads, and so they end up putting a whole lot on their teams. Nobody should have more than you on your plate when you're starting out on a thing. And even just period, that just tends to happen because you're the visionary. No one, you shouldn't be putting as much on other people's plate that's on your plate. Like, you got to raise your capacity as a leader. You need to be able to carry more until you start to recognize who has the ability to carry, a greater level of responsibility. The next thing is, there needs to be a safe environment for people to express when they're tired. You need to make sure that your team is taking breaks. With our team, we've become very intentional this year, like with forcing them to take time off, because our team, look, they love us, we love them, and they will just keep serving and serving and serving. And we have to be like, when is the last time you've taken Sunday off? When is the last time? Like, don't come back. Don't be at church Sunday. Just stay home. Like, we have to force a lot of our top leadership to take breaks, but it's necessary for them to rest and to clear their mind. So if you're codependent on your team, you're not going to do that. People who are codependent leaders who don't have a lot of capacity on their own, they typically make people feel bad when they take breaks. So if you have an environment in a culture where you make people feel guilty about taking breaks, then they're not going to take breaks and they're going to burn out because they're afraid of you being upset with them or thinking they're lazy. And a lot of that comes from that religious mindset of feeling like, if I take a break, I'm not being faithful to God. If I take a break, I'm not being faithful to what we're building. The devil is a liar. God rested and he's God. So he needs us to rest. And one of the reasons why you need your team to rest is because when you don't allow your team to rest, they will fall apart at the worst time. Like, it's like the time when you need your team the most, they ain't got nothing left because you never let them rest and you make them feel bad about taking breaks. Breaks and rest are a part of um our relationship with God. He tells us that we need to rest in him. We need to rest our soul, our spirits. We need to experience his rest and dwell in his rest. And we need to rest our bodies and rest our minds so we can be excellent. So the goal is to be excellent. So you have to make rest and breaks mandatory, and you have to take away that religious mindset that you're not being faithful to God if you take breaks. That's not true. And a lot of times too, leaders do that out of fear, because it's a whole controlling environment of, if I let them take a break, they're not going to come back. And so you're trying to keep them going and going and going for fear that they won't want to be committed to the vision. That just shows that you're a weak leader, though. You don't have vision. You don't have enough vision for people to be passionate about, for them to want to be a part of what you're building. You may not be a strong leader, so you have to control them and make them work themselves like a slave. A strong leader is able to cast vision and build zeal and build excitement and commitment through their leadership. You don't have to control people by not letting them take a break. So change the culture around taking breaks and resting. And you as a leader have to improve in taking breaks and resting. My husband and I had to do that. We're getting real good at it now because the more we have to do, the more we value rest and taking breaks. And so you want your team to see you take a break. You want your team to see you rest, so you can change the whole mindset behind breaks and rest. The next thing, you need to assess the capacity of the people on your team. What will burn one person out is not the same thing that will burn another person out. Some people are extremely high capacity. They can do a lot for a long time before they burn out. And then you have others who are not as high capacity and they burn out really, really easily. Now, they may think that they're high capacity, but they're not high capacity. And so you have to make sure that you give them responsibilities that match who they are and where they are. Okay. Because if you're trying to give everybody the same level of responsibilities across the board, some people are going to burn out quicker than others. Some people are going to thrive under the weight of that pressure. They're different. You cannot give people the same expectations and the same level of responsibilities. Know your team. Know what they can handle and what they can't handle. And when people show you who they are, don't get offended. Accept it. Hear what I say. When people show you who they are, don't get offended. Accept it. Sometimes we get offended when people can't push and go and stick with us and handle keeping up with our speed. We take it personally. I know some people ain't going to be honest about this, but this is the truth. Sometimes we get upset when people get to a place that we felt like would always be with us, or would always be a part of the leadership team, or will always go be able to stick with us, and they can't stick with us. Then we get sad because we feel like, man, I thought they were more committed than this. It's not about commitment. It's not about commitment, because some of them are committed. They just don't have the capacity and are the desire to continue to grow at the rate you need them to grow for them to stick with you. Catch what I'm saying, please. Please, because I'm trying to protect your heart. Some people are not going to grow at the rate that you need them to grow for them to keep up with you. It's not that they don't love you, but sometimes people don't want to make that push, and sometimes people have reached their capacity. They were great at this level, but now that you're going to the next level, they can't keep up. And that's one of the hardest things about building, that the people who are on your team when you start may not be the people that are on your team at the second level. And those people may not be the people on your team at the third level. Some people don't want to have to dig deeper and expand because look, when you're building something and it's getting bigger and faster, they have to continue to personally grow. They can no longer just eat on what you're pouring. They have to have a desire to grow and to expand. And not everybody is willing to do that. And so we can take it personally as leaders because they've been with us and we want them to stay with us. But you have to accept when a person has reached either their capacity or what they're willing to do. Because sometimes it's not a capacity issue, it's a willingness issue. They're not willing to grow more. They're not willing to expand more. They're not willing to become more disciplined. They're not willing to stretch themselves. They're just not willing. It doesn't mean that they don't love you. It doesn't mean that they don't believe in the vision. It means that now they've reached a place where they had to decide, what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? And it's hard. It's hard. When I tell you, it breaks your heart and you deal with even some guilt. You deal with some guilt by outgrowing certain people and moving too fast for them to catch up. But you have to follow God and you have to move at his rate and his pace and do what he's called you to do. But whoever is not able, God will bring new people who are at that capacity, are able to grow to that capacity to continue to help you move forward. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing when you start to outgrow your team. Okay? It's a hard thing. Who else has a question? Throw it in there while I'm talking if you have any other questions. So, what were we talking about? Okay, we were talking about the difference between first developing a team and then starting to build people and build leaders. So when Apostle and I first started, like I said, we just had hands and feet. We just had a few members who would help out here and there. Then we moved into a place where, oh, these gnats. Then we moved into a place where we needed a team of consistent volunteers. So we had to begin to train them in the areas that we needed them to serve in. Now, when you're the visionary, and you don't have this broad team, guess what? You have to train in every area. You have to be a broad leader. You have to be able to train the hosts and train the intercessors and train the MITs and train the children's teachers and train, you have to be able to train every area at every level. So we were really stretching ourselves as it pertains to training and developing volunteers. But guess what? Those were just volunteers. Then we reached a level where we now need to train some of those people to be leaders over the volunteers. So there's one thing to develop people and there's a different thing to develop leaders, because now the people that you're developing into leadership, you are really giving them your mind. When we're developing volunteers, we're just teaching them how to execute tasks the way that we desire them to execute them. Okay. So we're saying, if you are a host, this is the way we want you to host. If you are working with the children, this is the way we want you to teach the children. So we're just training hands and feet. That is like your first level of leadership. You're training hands and feet. You're training people to execute tasks the way that you prefer. Okay? You're training hands and feet. But then when you need a leader or a manager, let's say that you need a manager over your hands and feet. We may in the church call them leaders, but really they're just managers at this point. You need managers over your hands and feet. Now you're giving them a little bit more of your mind because you're telling them how you want the task to be, how you want them to be executed, and you're telling them, manage these people and make sure they keep executing the task the way I want it to be executed. So they're still just managers because, listen, they're not yet creating vision in their department. They haven't yet been given any ownership over those departments. They're just making sure the volunteers are executing the vision the way the senior leaders want to execute the vision. I told y'all I'm giving y'all something that I could charge y'all for this workshop. I could charge y'all for this workshop. I hope you're catching it. So you think that you're building leaders, but you're not building leaders yet. You're building managers. We're talking about building from the ground up. There are levels to this thing. That's right, Deidre. Pastor Chelsea says, what are ways you can pour into your team? Okay, we'll definitely get to that question. Get it while it's free, because it won't be free forever. Tell them, Brad, get it while it's free. Get it while it's free, because it won't be free forever. There are absolutely levels. So a lot of times we think we're building leaders. You're not building leaders. You're building managers. Because when they're still following your instruction, you're managing. Hear me. When you're following the instructions of the senior leaders, if you're the visionary and you have a business and people are helping you, or you have a personal ministry and people are helping you execute tasks, and they're still coming to you for the instructions on how to execute the task, those aren't leaders. They're managers. Now, so first I'm building my team of hands and feet. Level 1. Level 2, I'm learning how to create managers over the heads and feet. That's my next level of people development, of leadership. I'm creating managers to manage the hands and feet. The next level is now I'm starting to develop leaders. How do I know I'm developing leaders now? I know because I am teaching them how to have vision. I know because I am preparing them to begin to build out a process in their own way. And this happens over time. You gradually start to give them more control and more authority over their departments. But before you can release that level of authority over their departments, you have to pour into them and develop them so they start to think like a leader. Because most people are coming in with the manager mindset. They were hands and feet, and then they got moved to management. Now they're managing your vision over that department. And now you have to teach them to start to think like a leader. What does that mean? Now I'm starting to help them to see what can make this more efficient. What has God given you for this department to help take it to the next level? What has God given you? What have you noticed needs to be improved? What are the problem areas that you see that need to be solved? How can you become more productive and efficient? So you start to help them to develop the sight like a leader, the mind of a leader. You start to help them to understand what vision is and how to build a vision for their department, how to determine what they want to see. And typically, as a senior leader, see, you hold the main vision. And so now they're developing a vision underneath your vision. So their vision has to be in agreement and in alignment with your vision. So you're teaching them now how to see like this, because they're used to just managing. And see, a lot of times this is why we mess up as leaders, because we'll be calling people leaders who are managers, and we have the expectation for them to be leaders, but they're still managers, and we've never even taught them how to be a leader. We thought because we gave them a leadership title that they were just suddenly going to know how to be a leader, and then we get mad because they're not leading. Well, honey, they're not leading because you haven't taught them how to lead. And see, the way, if you're going to call yourself the visionary and the leader of what you're doing, you have to actually train these people into who you need them to be. And that's where a lot of people realize that they're just a visionary, but they're not a leader themselves, because they can't raise up their team and continuously develop their team to be able to be what they need them to be. They want their team to just become it. You think because you give them a task that they're just going to execute it the way you want them to execute it without you teaching them how to execute it? A lot of times people come into organizations with great leaders and they think that it just became, you just got that team out of nowhere. No, you have to develop these people. I get that compliment all the time from other leaders. They look at our leaders and they just say, man, y'all just have some great leaders. I wish I had leaders like that. I was like, you must be mistaken, because you must have thought when they came, they was like this. We have to spend time and push and develop. They already had the potential, but you have to invest in that potential and help grow that into actual fruit. Don't get mad at your team because they're not like somebody else's team when you haven't developed your team. And a lot of leaders will do that. They will compare their team to someone else's team and get mad at their team. Why aren't you doing what their team is doing? Why aren't you at that level? You're not developing them to be at that level. You want them to just magically become who you want them to become. That comes from you investing your time in developing and teaching them. Okay? So you have to pour into your team. Okay, let's answer Pastor Chelsea's question. What are ways you can pour into your team? First and foremost, you need to be invested in them as people. First and foremost. Okay, before we even get into the development into leadership, you need to invest in them as people. You need to actually care about what their needs are and where they are. And when you start to do that, you start to see where they need growth. Okay, where they need growth, you start to see where they need growth. So as you spend time with them, you're going to see what their insecurities are. You're going to learn what their fears are. You're going to learn what their weaknesses are. And then you can be more intentional about developing in those different areas. Of course, your leadership meetings, you need to have regular leadership meetings where you're pouring. Okay. So, one thing though, this is a broad question. And I say this because it depends on what level team we're talking about. So, if we're talking about our hands and feet, you're talking about your managers, if you're talking about your leaders and you're talking about your top tier leaders, those pouring opportunities are going to be different. So, hands and feet, we're going to spend time with them building trust, helping them understand the vision, um, pouring into them in a more general way. And you may have to incorporate more fun in there as well, because their commitment level isn't going to be the same and their discipline level isn't going to be the same as your top level leaders. So volunteers, they're not always going to be willing to sit for long periods of time and be developed, because they're just volunteers. They're just hands and feet. They're not trying to hear all that extra stuff. They're not trying to be developed at a higher level. So you're going to incorporate some fun in there. You're going to incorporate some questions, some icebreakers, some trust exercises, things like that. So you want to still have some level of pouring with them where you're sharing. Say if you're a church and you're pastor, you're sharing like the culture of the church, things that you guys already do. Then when we talk about those managers, you want to have a different type of pour with those managers, because you maybe want to teach them about excellence. You want to teach them about efficiency. You want to teach them about how to lead with love, how to manage those people they serve with or that they oversee with love and with kindness and with compassion. So you're going to be pouring into them. Maybe same thing through a meeting. You may do like workshops. You may do lunches where y'all just have lunch together. You break bread with them. Okay. But the next level is leaders. Those are more intimate settings. Those are more intimate settings. When you talk about your leaders, these are people now that you're giving your mind to. You may be a little more transparent with these individuals, and you may eat with these individuals. In the beginning, we used to do a lot of meetings with food with our leadership team. Almost every time we would always have some kind of food and stuff like that, because there's something intimate about eating with your team. With, you saw Jesus, he would recline at certain tables, he would eat with certain tables. There was a different level of intimacy when you eat with people. And so in those settings too, when you're eating, you're just sharing your heart. It's not always about teaching and giving points and steps. Is just saying, like, this is what I've experienced, and this is what God's showing me. It's much more intimate. It's much more about you sharing your heart with them, and what you see in them, and what you see God is doing, and hearing from them their experiences, and what they've been through. Like, you're building more of an intimate relationship when you have people that are close to you, that are you're entrusting with things that mean a lot to you. There needs to be way more personal relationship building, okay? Because those people start to learn you so well that they make decisions with what you like and what you prefer and what the vision is in mind. It's become ingrained in them. And that's something that we love about our top leadership team, our fivefold leaders, our associate pastors, prophets, everything, is that we've built such a relationship with them that there's some things they know, like, don't even bring this idea to them. That's not even the culture of this ministry. That's not the vision of this ministry. They also protect and shield from other people trying to bring things in that are not a part of the vision. Their commitment levels different because they know our commitment level to them is real. And I'm not talking about what they can do for the church. I mean them as a person. Like, we genuinely love each other. And so their level of commitment is different because we have a real relationship with these individuals outside of what they can do, outside of their gifts, outside of their responsibilities, just them as a person. So when it comes to pouring into teams at that high level, no, we do life. We do life. Like, we really our relationship dynamic is different with those who are at the higher levels of responsibility. So regular meetings are necessary. The lower level the leadership, the more engaging and fun it has to be, because the commitment level is um not as strong. The higher level of leadership, the more heavy the pour, the longer the pour, the heavier the expectation, the heavier the responsibility. Their discipline level is much higher, so they don't need a whole lot of bells and whistles. They're ready to work. Their discipline is just different, but you still have fun with them, and that's something we're trying to develop more as we go, is incorporating more fun, just outing and engagements with our top level leadership, because we do a lot of pouring with them. So we have two biannual planning meetings in our church. We have October and May, and this is where we plan for, well, October we kind of do an oversight for the whole year, but we really solidify the first 6 months, and in May we solidify the second 6 months. And we talk about vision and plans for their departments. These are just our leaders who are over the departments that are in these planning meetings with us. And then we have 2 monthly leadership meetings with all of our leaders. And now we're incorporating quarterly things with our volunteers. We're trying to get that back going, because all of our training meetings in the beginning were just volunteers. They weren't any leaders, they were just volunteers. So now we have like 2 tiers in between volunteers. So the meetings are increasing, and we kind of got away from working with our hands and feet volunteers because we now had leadership teams, but we recognize that they need to hear our voice more frequently. And so we are trying to incorporate back the process, us pouring into our volunteers at least like a few times a year, while their leaders over their departments are also working with them. So, and we're in a heavy time of developing our leaders, like growing our leaders on a different level. So we've been, like I said, having them read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell and challenging them in their leadership for their departments. But yeah, it's been a time. Any other questions? Any other questions? Brandy said she didn't look nothing like she looked 4 years ago as far as leading. No, she's truly, truly grown as a leader. Deidre, weary, wounded, and broken. You guys are truly grown as leaders. Super proud of y'all. Super proud of y'all. I definitely push Brandy really, really hard. And see, a lot of people don't know. Like, that's why I always laugh when people try to, you know, feel some kind of way because they want proximity, and I'm like, y'all don't understand like how much I put on those that I'm developing as leaders. And a lot of people who want that proximity, they don't want that pour, that weight, that responsibility. And so they just romanticize it. But you have to be made for um leadership and certain levels of responsibility to deal with the kind of weight that apostle I put on them. Being under apostle and a prophet is very different than being under a pastor. So you have to be ready for that. Ebony said, what kind of boundaries need to be established as relationships with senior leaders become more intimate? How do you avoid too much familiarity? Um, I think the first thing is you can't move too fast. Like I said, one of the biggest things, especially when you're a fivefold church or prophetic church, people tend to like want to make a beeline to the senior leaders. You have to give things time to develop. Um, I don't worry about developing too much familiarity at this point because we kind of weed that stuff out as the relationship grows more intimate. So I don't even allow people to get to a certain level of relationship with me if I feel like they cannot respect me first as their leader. And one of the ways that I can tell how people respect me as their leader is how they treat my leaders. I'm letting y'all in. I'm letting y'all into some deep stuff. I don't talk about this with everybody, but I think it's important. I watch how people treat my leaders. If you disrespect my leadership team, don't even think about getting to me. Not in that way. Not in an intimate relationship. When I see people come in and they disrespect the people we have in place and they kind of look down on them like, ugh, I don't want to be under them, or I don't want to be mentored by them, or I don't want a relationship with them, like you're already telling me what your intentions are, because this is the real tea, real. Like, because these are people, one, that have been with us for a while, that we've given our hearts and minds to. We know their hearts. We know how anointed and how gifted they are. Let me tell you something. Liberate Church ain't a regular church. Our leadership team is got some real weight in it. Like we're not one of those types of leaders where we don't want to have a strong leadership team because we want to seem bigger and better and all of that. No, our leadership team is no joke. They are anointed, they are intelligent, they are powerful, they have their own ministries that God is building in them. And so when I see that someone can't discern that because they're so focused on trying to get to us, then that already shows me that your intentions are wrong. And then so if I'm going to watch first and foremost how you handle my leaders, and then if I see that you respect them and you honor them, that's showing me your heart posture. Another thing is I'm watching how you approach me. I'm watching a lot of people, they I think we go to extremes, right? we are in this time where people idolize their leaders. Well, it's always been that way. I don't know why I say we're in this time. It's always been that way, where there are some people who idolize their leaders and they are like untouchable. They treat them like they're God, and they, are afraid to talk to them and all of that. But you have those who are so against that sometimes they can go to the other extreme and be dishonorable or just be kind of disrespectful. And I can always discern those type of people who want so bad to prove that they're not gonna worship you, or they're not gonna exalt you, maybe because they've been guilty of it in the past, or maybe because they've gone through church hurt, that they become kind of too familiar right off, because they want to make a statement, right? That you're just a person like me. But yes, I'm a person like you, but I still have been given responsibility in the in the body to lead you and to cover you, and I have to give an account for how I lead you. So I still have been given a level of authority that is greater than what your authority and responsibility are. And so the same way that you would show respect to your boss in your workplace, even more so, you should respect the person who has to oversee your soul and has chosen to lay their life down to lead in spiritually lead and be held accountable by God all the days of their life. That is a heavy, heavy weight. All the days of your life, when you decide to submit to your call, God is watching how you handle it and what you do and how you manage the sheep. So that alone, that I've sacrificed to develop your growth and to protect you and to feed you as an under shepherd, that alone is worthy of respect. And I think some people in their effort to avoid idolizing leaders, they can be disrespectful and dishonorable to spiritual leaders. And when people approach me in that way, it's going to take time before I can even trust you to consider, the boundaries that are going to be in place. Okay? Because when people have revelation of the responsibility of their leader, they will never become familiar. I hope y'all caught that. When people have revelation of the responsibility of their leader, they will never have an issue with becoming familiar. And when I know that someone has revelation of what I'm called to do and who I am to them and to the body, I can be comfortable with them. I can joke with them. We can have honest conversations, and they never become familiar with me, because they know that no matter how realistic my perspective is of you as a human, like I can accept that you're human. I can accept that you're a person just like me and you have challenges just like me. But because I know the responsibility and the calling on your life, I never become familiar. I can exist in both of those realities. I can exist in both of those realities. The reality that you're a human, that you're flawed, that you need grace, that you need the Holy Spirit, but also the reality that you're called and chosen by God to do what you do. God's hand is on you to do this. God's hand is on you to do this. Like his power, his grace, his wisdom is on you to do this. So I will never become familiar because God's hand is on you. You're his vessel. But see, when people don't have understanding and revelation of those things, they become familiar. And guess what? People that don't have relation of those things don't get into my inner circle. Period. People that don't have that revelation, people that don't have the maturity to balance the two realities will never get in the intimate circle with me. Never. Period. I don't care how gifted you are. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how much you love the church. If you can't balance these two realities, and you don't have revelation of my assignment, you will never see me in my reclined state like that. We can break bread on a higher level, but I'm not going to recline with you. You're not going to come to my home. You're not going to, bring me soup when I'm sick. You're not going to be on that level, because you can't balance these two truths, that I'm human and I'm called. Jesus. I'm human and I'm called. I'm called to do this. I'm anointed for this. God's hand is upon me for this. He has anointed me for this, yet I'm human. And see, the people that have grown with us and they have matured enough to get to that level, I can joke with them. We can trip out. We can tease each other. And then when it's time to work, there's another mode that kicks in. There is another mode that kicks in. I can, with my inner circle, I can go from joking with them to ministry mode with them, and they never skip a beat. We can be in the car talking. They can know when I'm not feeling well. They'll say, "What do you need?" But guess what? And that's one thing that is different about being my armor bearer, because my armor bearers see how I am when I'm in the back before I come out. They see sometimes when the enemy's attacking my physical body and I'm feeling like I'm about to faint, and they know just to pray for me, not try to stop me, because they know God's going to do what he always does, and the power of God's going to come upon me, and I'm going to do what I got to do, and then I'm going to go home and get in the bed. See, they can balance the humanity and the calling. They can know how to serve me in both sides. They know I can be honest with them and say when I'm feeling nervous or I'm afraid about something. But then they know my heart. They know who I'm called, and they know that even if I'm afraid, I'm still gonna do what I'm supposed to do. See, they never get nervous if I say, "Oh, I'm nervous about this," or "I'm scared about this," or because they know the calling always outweighs my humanity, so they can hear me be human and then know that I'm still gonna do what God's called me to do, because they have revelation. And not many people can mature to that place and have that kind of revelation where they can see your human form and still know that the hand of God is on you. And I'm very discerning about the levels that people are at, and I'm very discerning about, see, I'm the type of person, I'm gonna just let y'all in on something. I'm the type of person where I can't even say I'm just observant, because I've always been observant, but I believe that my calling has my former mentor back in the day, she used to call me eagle eye, because she says you literally don't miss a thing. Things that nobody else sees, you see. And that's just how I'm wired. I notice everything. And my spirit, the Holy Spirit, pieces things together like CSI. I look at expressions, I hear tones, I hear the things you don't say. That's just how my brain works. I wish I could turn it off sometimes, for real. But I can always discern what people are ready for as it pertains to relationship. One of the first things I'm always going to look at is, how well do you respect people's boundaries? And I'm not even talking about me. I'm looking at how you respect other people's boundaries. I'm looking at how you treat other people. Before I even talk about how you're going to treat me, I'm looking at how you talk to people. I'm looking at the boundaries you set. I'm looking at the fact that people come in and they think they're too good to talk to people. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't impress me. For insecure leaders, they like folks who disrespect everyone else and disregard everyone else to get to them. For me, that is the biggest way to shut any idea of proximity down. I don't like people who are arrogant. and who disrespect other people. I'm one who values even the person that feels like no one, they're a nobody and they don't have anything to contribute. I'm going to sit and listen to you and what you have to say. I'm going to take interest in what you say. That's my heart, because God said that when we are kind to the least of these, he says, when you do unto the least of these, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I didn't have clothes, you clothed me. Whatever you do to the least of these, you're doing to me. And so when I see a person come in and act and isolate themselves and act like they're too good to talk to anybody and they're above people, I don't like those kind of people in my space. That's not impressive to me. That doesn't make you seem like you're successful. It makes you seem like you are spiritually immature, and you don't have the heart and the mind of Christ. And I need people with that heart around me. I don't need people who try to act like we're a clique and you can't talk to me because I am a prophetess armor bearer or I'm one of their leaders. No, 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 no. If any of our leaders ever act like that, you want to see somebody get demoted fast? Be disrespectful. Treat people like they're small. I don't like that stuff. And I see people come in and they visit and they're rushing to get to me and shake my hand and talk to me and let me know who they are and all this stuff, and I'm just like, mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Those type of people become familiar. Those type of people, the arrogant people, the people who are looking for come up, the people who are looking for opportunities, the people who are looking to try to gain more influence, those are the people that easily become familiar. The people that exalt you quick or exalt themselves quick will also be the people that are quick to bring you low, that are quick to say, "Oh, I just thought because you was a pastor, you a prophet. I didn't think you did with this. I didn't think, those are the people that always so quick to turn their nose up because they're arrogant. Real humility, not false humility. Real humility is they have grace. And when people operate with grace, they can have the capacity, they can grow into the capacity to be able to do what I said, accept both truths, that you're human and that you're called. People that operate with love, with compassion, with grace. Arrogant people are waiting for you to fall so that they can criticize and judge you. I can't stand people who criticize and judge from the back of the place. The folks that have no part in building, no part in leading, no part in developing people, but have the most to say. I mean, I'd be like, I've said this before, but I've never seen people more critical of pastors than people who don't pastor. I've never seen people more critical of pastors than people who don't pastor. The people that will be most critical of you will be the people that have never done anything close to what you're doing. There's nobody more critical to an entrepreneur than people that aren't an entrepreneur. And so you always find that people who don't do what you do have the most to say about what you do. But you can't let that stuff get to you. You cannot let that stuff get to you. One of the things that I've learned as a senior leader, and I had to repent. Mhm. I'm just saying, if you have all that wisdom, do something. Where is your fruit? One thing, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be done. When I became a senior pastor, I had to repent because I was very critical myself, because God has given me a gift of wisdom. I'm a prophet. I see and I know things. And so I used to just feel like, well, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? That just seems like it's obvious. That seems like why didn't they do it this way? Or why aren't they doing that? And I used to be critical, and I used to assume that because they weren't doing something, they didn't know that it needed to be done. Please hear me. For those of you who are leaders, are under leaders, are you're becoming a leader, are you're building with your leader, please hear me. I used to assume that because it wasn't done, that they didn't know it needed to be done. But do you know how many things as a leader you know need to be done, but you either lack the time, the resources, or the people to do it? Or I used to think because they didn't do something a certain way, it's because they didn't have the capacity to think of the ideas. Well, why didn't they do it this way? Why didn't they do it that way? They just may not see it. No, 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 no. Sometimes a leader, especially when you're building from scratch, especially when you're a visionary and you have a lot of people and areas to lead, your brain, hear me, your brain is cluttered with so much information that you don't even have room to think about some of these other details. You are literally thinking all of the time. And this is why you have to build leaders who can think and solve problems, because you need extra heads to be able to build out everything that you have to build. Let me give you an example. And this is why you have to be a confident and a real leader who invites people to have ideas. Let me give you an idea. I mean an example. Our church has, I don't know how many departments. I can't even tell off my head. We probably have about 15 to 20 different departments. Okay. So let's talk about the whole vision of Liberate Church. We have about 15 to 20 departments. We have new things we've established, our new small groups, our leaders for that. We have the stuff that we're trying to build out. We're trying to move into a new building. We have the finances that we're thinking about. We have, like I said, we're coming up on 275 members. Whether they in attendance every Sunday or not, they still are members. We still have to be responsible for that. We have marriages, we have families, we have children and youth challenges, we have people getting sick, we have people who are going through financial challenges, we have things going on in the building. Recently we had a whole leak coming out the roof where it kept flooding. We have equipment that needs to be bought. We have outreach efforts that are going on. We have, I mean, when I tell you, and this is just for the now, we're not even talking about the things we're planning out for the future. We have all these things going on. Plus, my husband and I have 3 children, one who's going into her senior year, one who's going into middle school and will be playing football. Then we have our youngest baby girl. And then my husband is a vice president at a company, and he literally just hit the road last night to drive to Austin to be at a meeting and to come back. I have a business with 4 different parts, and I'm starting to pick up my travel and preaching engagements, and I have counseling client and coaching clients and mentees, and I'm expanding my company this fall. And so we had all that in our head. And then we're doing a building campaign. So some of the members have come and said, "Hey, we have some ideas for the building campaign. Do y'all mind if we give y'all this?" We're like, "Yes. Yes. Email the ideas." Why? Because Our minds are full. And this isn't even, y'all, this schedule isn't even counting the continued growth that we're always doing. I'm typically reading 4 to 5 books simultaneously. One on entrepreneurship, one on business, one on leadership, one on spiritual gifts and development, one on the miracles of God, and the Bible. And I need my personal prayer time. And I'm trying to take care of my health. I'm juicing. I'm exercising. My brain is literally full of information at all times. At all times. And when we don't think of a thing, it's not because we can't. It's because I just don't even have the ability to slow down and think about those details right now. Because somebody just came to us with this crisis, and this department just came to us with this need, and then we're planning this event, and then you need my input for the marketing for June, for July, and then this person needs the announcements, and then this person needs the schedule, and then this person needs. And so when folks was like, we have ideas for the building campaign, do y'all mind us sending ideas? Yes, please do. Please do. Because that's something I don't have to think about. Now, I've talked about what we need to do, but in the midst of me planning to do that, I get distracted. I have to do this over here. And so if you have a window of time to think about the details about that thing, I'm going to send those ideas, because the energy you took to think about that is energy I don't have to give towards it now. So a lot of times we like to make the assumption that if a leader doesn't do something, or they don't, take a certain approach, it's because they didn't see it, or it's because they didn't think of it. No. It's because literally we are juggling 50 million balls at one time and still building. To be an entrepreneur, there is no. Yes, that's exactly right, Lakeisha. And we still need rest. And we still got to squeeze in a break and vacations in that. There are literally times where I'll just say, don't nobody ask me questions. I just need a day where nobody asks me questions. Nobody asks me anything. Because there is never a dull moment. If you all understood the things that go on behind closed doors as a pastor, the stuff that y'all see is 10% of what it is to pastor. The hardest stuff is the stuff that nobody knows about. The emergencies that happen, the crisis that happen, the drama that happens, the loss that happens, the pain that happens, the things that people don't see. Preaching is the least of the concerns of pastoring. That's the easy part. Preaching is the easy part. It is the easy part. I mean, and like I said, I got a business, a multifaceted business, and a family, and a husband who is an executive, who I'm trying to also making sure that he has the support he needs. Because right now, the amount of care, what he's carrying in his business is heavy. It's a lot. It is a lot, y'all. And there is no do you do ministry full time? Ministry is always full time. What are you talking about? Who even started that whole I want to quit my job so I could do ministry full time? If you're a pastor, ministry is full time. The difference is you just got 2-3 full-time jobs. It's no part-time pastoring. When you get into the thick of pastoring, when you move past that startup phase and you got You have you have over 100 members, and y'all have activities going on all the time, and you trying to grow and expand. There is no part-time ministry. You're always doing ministry. You don't get to clock out of pastoring. You're always pastoring. Always. We don't say, "Oh, I'm a pastor today from this time to this time, and then I'm gonna go to my other job." No, I'm pastoring all the time, and as an entrepreneur, I'm running my business all the time, and I'm a mama all the time, and I'm a wife all the time, and I love it all. I love it all. It's my purpose. I'm graced to do it. But I just want you to be aware of the fact that just because your leader isn't doing something doesn't mean they don't see it needs to be done, or it doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to think of it. Sometimes they just don't have the time to think of it. Sometimes they just don't have the time or the money or the help to do it. We have so many ideas of things we want to do, and we're trying to build out the team to do it, and we're trying to increase the finances to be able to do those things. There are a lot of things we want to do, but you just can't do it right now. And you have to be able to pace yourself and know what you can do now, what you have to do later, and what you will do as you go. As you grow and evolve, you'll be able to get some of the things done. And so, being a leader is building those teams and building the systems and the processes so that you can, bring this vision to all that it can be. But you have to build the team to do that. I mean, and we kind of took a whole turn off of leadership into something else. Yeah, we have to know the timing. All right, I'm about to be out of here. Any last I'll take one more question. If anybody has one more question, then we're going to be out of here. I know this was just I just felt like just chatting today. I didn't feel like doing anything real structured. Cuz I just had we had a busy weekend, and I'm tired. So I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go into no whole revelatory teaching. But man, there's so many things. I might do more of the different things I wish I knew before. I mean, things I wish I knew 7 years ago. Cuz I am just so excited. Yes, I'm excited for Mantles too, Dominica. Y'all, listen. If you have not registered, what are you doing? What are you doing? And Liberators, Apostle Duhart gave us a promotional code to give y'all so that you can use it for Mantles. Let me see, how much is Mantles right now? It is trying to see how much general registration is. 150. Okay, general registration is 150, and he gave me a coupon code for y'all to give it to you for 135. So we're gonna give you that coupon code. He said, "Get this to your Liberate members." But yeah, go back, catch the middle. Yeah, this is my unstructured and casual chat. This is I didn't plan nothing. I just said I was gonna come on here and talk. Yeah, this is how I talk. My leaders know, like, this is how when my husband and I ramble, this is how we ramble. We just this and that's how you pour too, Pastor Chelsea, for that question she put earlier. Like, how do you pour? Like, one of the things too. Okay, let me say this. Sometimes we get frustrated because we want people to see us as a leader. But there are certain levels of leadership that you have to grow into, and we want people to see that in us, but we're not there yet. When you have the fruit, people will see you as a leader. And I think sometimes we get frustrated because maybe we want them to have that level of respect for us, but you don't have that level of pour yet. That stuff comes with time. It comes with actual doing. I don't care how many degrees you get, how many courses you take. You're not gonna have that kind of fruit until you actually start doing. It's one thing to have head knowledge. It's another thing to actually build and develop and go through those challenges in real time. And I know when we get to 10 years of pastoring and 15 years of pastoring, then there's going to be even deeper wells and deeper levels of knowledge and wisdom and experience that I can give. But sometimes we're on year one and we want people to have a certain level of respect for us, and you don't have the fruit yet for the respect that you want. You have to build that and grow and develop, you know. Ebony. But that's just like with you, Ebony. For example, you have now trained a certain level of doulas. You develop a certain level of experience, and that's like somebody you just trained saying, "Well, I want people to listen to me like they listen to you." And you're gonna say, "Well, you haven't trained the people I've trained. You haven't developed the people I've developed. You haven't seen all the things I've seen yet." So they're not going to have this level of respect because you got to earn that. You have to build your experience. And that's with many of you in ministry. You've built a certain level of experience in your ministry and your gift. Those of you who are entrepreneurs, you're building experience in what you're doing now. And so, God will start to allow people's hearts to be turned towards you as you show yourself faithful over those few things. Then he's going to give you more influence, and he's going to allow your voice to carry more weight as you grow and as you expand. When we first started pastoring, there was a level of entitlement, and I see this in a lot of new pastors where we just think because we got a pastoral title that people should respect us in that way. And that's not going to happen, y'all. I don't care if you're pastoring a new church or you're pastoring an existing church, respect is earned. Respect is earned. And a lot of times we get frustrated because we want people to respect us more than what we've earned. We think that they should just respect the title. Yeah, they'll respect the title, but that's all they're going to give you until they start to see consistency and they see the quality of your fruit and they see you actually doing something and building and making a difference in their lives. Then they're going to respect what you have to say. But if we're just going off of a title, they're going to give you the bare minimum of what they have to give you until you prove that you deserve them to listen to you, that you have something to contribute to their life. So we need not get offended. Just be consistent. Time will tell. And then people will say, "Okay, you got some. Okay? You actually doing something. I can trust you. You've been consistent. You're actually expanding this thing. You're building this thing." Yeah, and the king's heart is in the hand of God. He will turn it whichsoever way he wills. But guess what? God can also intentionally turn people's heart against you. And sometimes when we say that, we think it's just turning in our favor. But the Bible says that God hardened the heart of Pharaoh so that his miracle signs and wonders could be manifested for the children of Israel, so that they would praise him. And sometimes God will not allow certain people to receive from you until you humble yourself. And I think sometimes we come into titles and we just kind of be acting entitled, and we don't realize we do. I can tell you 100%. I was entitled. I just felt like, I'm a pastor now. People are going to respect me. They're going to respect what I have to say. I didn't have any fruit. And I look back at that and I literally laugh out loud, man. I laugh so hard. Me and my husband both, we laugh so hard at ourselves and how we were when we started. Like, man, we had no clue what we were getting ourselves into. We had no clue. Like, bruh, we were just telling our leaders, it was about year 3 that then people started to really respect us as leaders and say, okay, y'all still in this thing. It's year 3. Then year 4, during the pandemic, it just felt like our peers, everybody started seeing like they are really out here building. And now each year we notice more and more people coming to us and saying, we're watching what y'all doing. We've been seeing what y'all been doing through the pandemic, through everything. We're seeing who you guys are. We're going places and people knowing who we are out of the blue because we've been consistent and we have fruit. We have fruit. People remember when we were on here broadcasting and there was nobody on our broadcast. We was preaching and it was nobody in the church. Lord have mercy. And then when we started going really hard in the prophetic, in the fivefold, and demonstration and gifts, and people was criticizing us and talking about us for prophesying and casting out demons and all this stuff, they was talking about us. Now people want to know how we do the things we do. So that comes with consistency. You have to be consistent. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you anything. I appreciate that, Dominica. I try to be transparent because I want y'all to know it's real out here. I am so sick of seeing all these people who act like this stuff, happens overnight and that they try to guard everything and don't want to give any wisdom or instruction or nothing. Like people want to hide everything and act like they just got here. Nah, man, it's been hard. It's been hard and it didn't happen overnight and it's still hard. We're still building. We're going through transition and growth right now. Like God is shifting our whole life from our home life to our careers to the church, everything. We're going through a transition, but God is faithful. He's doing exactly what he said. You got to trust that and you have to give it time. Nobody owes you anything. You have to earn that respect. You have to earn credibility. You have to earn people listening and caring about what you have to say. You have to earn that stuff. I don't care about your degree. You can call yourself doctor all you want, but if you have nothing to pour and you can't build people, you can't show people that you really have something to contribute, they're not going to listen to you. In this world of all these fake degrees, it don't care the way they used to have. People out here getting whole masters and doctoral degrees in 6 months. Everybody a doctor now. Like, you have to show the fruit. Because, like I said, doing it in the classroom and doing it in real life are two different things. There are a lot of people who are career students, have all these degrees, and they can't build anything in real life. They can't lead anybody in real life. Degrees aren't enough. Titles aren't enough. Where is your fruit? Are you willing to stick with this process and do the hard things and do it when it's scary and do it when you have to invest all this time, all this money, all this, personal energy to do these things? Everybody don't want to do that. They would rather just build a bunch of credentials in the classroom than actually get out there and get their hands dirty and do the work. And you got to do the work. Yes, man. People are out here getting degrees in 6 months. How you go from no bachelor's to doctorate? Let me stop. Let me stop because I had to work too doggone hard for my degree. Yeah, everything's honorary. Everything's bought. I don't mind you being honorary, but I'm just saying people want to see fruit. And so in this day and age of everybody being an expert of everything but not actually having fruit in anything, You have to have fruit, because in social media world, you can become an expert overnight even though you haven't built anything. Now you're an expert. You do one thing well and now you're an expert. No longevity, no process of people seeing you go from nothing to this. It's just overnight stuff. So take the time and do it. Take the time and build. Take the time, invest into people. Let the process happen. Don't get frustrated. Don't feel disrespected because they don't want to hear what you have to say right now. You got to be consistent. You have to be consistent. Even with my husband, and he doesn't talk about it a lot because he's very private and humble. But even watching him go from when he started his career to now being a vice president before 40, as a black man in a predominantly white um industry, has been a beautiful thing to watch. But I've seen his journey. I've seen him go from the entry level. I've seen how hard he's worked. I've seen how consistent he's been. I've seen how he stretched himself and still stretching himself. This isn't the end where you can kick up your feet. He's been working harder than ever as a vice president. And it's totally changed the dynamic of our household as he's grown in his career, and as I'm growing in my business. It's been a process that people don't see. People see the beginning, they see the end, and they think you just jump there. They don't see all the challenges and all the disrespect and the racism and all of that stuff. Like, they don't see all the stuff he has endured to get to this point, and that he continues to do. That process thing is no joke. And everybody wants to find a shortcut in a back door, but it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. There is no tunnel where you can just shoot through to the end and not have to go through all the challenges in between. And I just want to encourage those of you who are in your late 20s, your early 30s, and you're frustrated because you're saying, man, I'm not where I want to be. You just don't know like how quickly God can begin to move you if you just stick there. Because sometimes we quit because we're not where we want to be as fast as we want to be or when we want to be. And we think, okay, I'm going to quit this and jump into something else. There is no faster path. If you're in purpose, you're going at the pace God wants you to go. Now, sometimes you may not be seeing the growth because you're not in purpose. But if you're in purpose and you're where God wants you to be, you just got to endure. You have to keep doing what you need to do and being consistent. God can open up that door at any time and expedite you and move you forward. I don't understand that question, Lakeisha. What's early 30s considered? You mean like generation wise? Because that's still millennials at this point. All right, y'all. Let me get out of here because I could just talk for hours. Yeah, it's just you're millennials, I believe. Yeah. I think, yeah. I think Gen Zs might be like 29 now, 29, 30. That may be the top of the Gen Z era. No, because my daughter is the top of Gen Z. No, I don't know, y'all. But yeah, y'all millennials. But I could talk like this all day. I love this. Just giving wisdom and pouring. I could do this all day. But I'm gonna go because I have some other things to do. I kind of like you made it. I kind of have the somewhat of the day off. Not really, but I still got work to do. Yeah, millennials is like 41 to actually no. I think it's 19. It's the year you're born. I think it was like 1980 or 1981 to like the mid 90s or something like that. I can't remember. I know I'm like at the very top of the millennials, so I kind of understand Generation X because I was kind of raised around that and the top of the millennial world. But those who are like in the middle toward the end of millennial world, they way more technological. We kind of were introduced to the internet. We still remember what it was like before the internet. So those of us who are at the top of the millennials, we kind of like that bridge from Gen X to millennial. We remember pre-internet, cell phone and stuff, but we also still lived with some level of the internet and cell phones and stuff. So we're kind of like a transitional type of people in between technology. Yeah, man, I still remember when yep, I had a pager too, Ebony. I had a pager. I remember when cell phones had minutes, you had to buy a card with the add minutes. You had to wait till after 8 o'clock to call, save your minutes. Yep, I had a pager. I remember those huge computers we used to have in school. Remember AOL dial up? Yeah, free at the nine. That's what it was, Nikki. I think mine was purple. My pager was a clear purple one. Ebony said she had a clear pink one. I had a clear purple one. Just go to the beauty supply, man. That's how you know I bought my cell phone at the beauty supply. That's how you know it was the early times. I bought my phone at the beauty supply. And you could go buy minute cards. You go buy 60 minutes, 120 minutes. Man, listen. Yes, that Nokia, nothing could destroy the Nokia phone. I don't care. Drown it in water, throw it down. That thing was durable. I remember when two ways came out. That was very brief because once they then advanced the texting technology, it was a wrap. Two ways last all of 2 years. Genuine had that song Two Way. Y'all remember that? Hit me on the two way, two way. Let me get off of here. Now we done gone down memory road. My daughter had gotten in my work truck some years ago, my oldest, and it had a roll down window. She was like, "What is that?" She said, "What is that?" I said, "It's how you roll down the window." She was just like, "Oh my gosh." Like, "Whoa, this is a lot of work." She was probably like 6, 5 or 6. Ooh wee. Yeah, that was The Senior. I think that was the album called Genuine was The Senior. Dominica on YouTube. Yep. That album was hitting. I used to rock that in my little Dodge Neon. I thought I was the stuff because I had the radio. I went to Best Buy, I had a radio put in. It was the radios that you could remove the face off of it. Man, I get out the car, remove because folks used to jack you for your radio. So you had to get the one where you remove the face off your radio. Scott keeps saying you from the 80s. You don't like that. Right. My daughter posted some pictures on IG yesterday and she put early 2000s style. She had like I guess what she felt like was the early 2000s style and I thought that made me feel so old. I'm like she talking about the early 2000s like she's wearing retro clothes. Early 2000s style. Yeah, man. I have worked hard and saved up money for that radio, man. You know what's funny though? Cause I could remove the face so they couldn't steal my radio, but them jokers still stole my CDs. Broke into my car and stole my entire pack of CDs. They didn't take my radio, but they took my music. I was so mad. I was so mad. Bruh. At least they didn't take my radio. I just didn't have any CDs to put in it. I had to rebuild my whole CD collection. Y'all know we used to have them big old packs of CDs, man. Man, that's an investment. You think about like $10, $11, $12 a CD, and you got a whole pack. And then, I mean, I ain't, half of them was bootleg from the bazaar from the mix CDs. Man, listen. Yeah, I wasn't rich. I just saved up for that radio. I saved up for that radio. I worked. I worked. But right. That's what my kids be calling it too, the olden days. Like, forget y'all. But anyway, let me get off of here. I love y'all. Y'all have a great day. Meet us this Wednesday at the Place of Liberty. We have discipleship classes this Wednesday. So I love Discipleship Wednesday. Join us. And on Sunday, we are kicking off our new series, If You Only Knew. And don't forget, we're giving out prizes for the people who bring the most visitors. So if you bring the most visitors, you may just get something. Also, don't forget for the Dream Seed, we still have two more $250 Dream Seeds to give away. You must be present if your name is drawn to get your Dream Seed. So don't forget about that. I love you all with the love of Christ. Have a great Monday. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.